You know, I don't like saying, I told you so, but I'll make an exception. I told you so. I said it would be an acquittal. Well, I stand a little corrected. There was this piddly Mann Act nonsense, this transporting prostitutes across state lines. So Cassie and that Jane Doe and a couple of male performers or whatever. Okay, if that's the best you can do, I guess. By the way, folks, Cassie, you're a prostitute. How do you like that? Think about that. You're, as we say in the streets, a hoe. Because that's what this thing is. But maybe, who knows, that may, in this particular weird way of thinking, that may mean something. But let's go through this. First and foremost, a proviso. And this is critical. Number one, and I say this, nobody is talking about, or I'm not, celebrating him. I don't like him. I don't know why I even have to say this, but sometimes you have to, because in today's simplistic world, I don't like him. I don't care for him. I don't, I couldn't tell you a song that he ever did. If he does a song, I don't even know what he's done. I don't know anything about him. I don't. But so what? That's not the issue. The issue is that he was charged with, number one, racketeering. Do you know what it means? They didn't find at least 2 predicate acts. Two predicate acts they didn't find. Not, arson or sexual battery or anything along. Nothing. Not 2. Racketeering is the easiest thing in the world. 2 predicate acts, 2 acts of whatever, and some existence of an enterprise. They said, nope. That's the part that killed me. When I heard that, that was it. It's like, uh-oh. Now, the other ones, remember yesterday they said, we have a verdict. And I was on WABC this morning, and I talked to my colleague, Noam Layton, and he said, well, we have a verdict. I said, don't forget, not guilty is a verdict, too. People were saying, they've reached a verdict. They think a guilty is the only verdict. Not guilty is a verdict. So, is Diddy going to do any time? Probably not, or so minimal. Under the federal sentencing rules, there are sentencing guidelines. And based upon the charge that has been found guilty, the person found guilty of, prior record, facts of the case, violence, aggravating factors, mitigating factors, blah, 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 blah. All of these, how do I say this? All of these factors come into play and are part of the consideration. He's looking at mainly, it's like 10 years maximum, I think, per count. Or the prosecution is just going for overkill because they've been hurt and they've been embarrassed. They're going to be asking for like 20 years. He could do time served. He was doing like 10 months. If somebody pled guilty, somebody walked into court right now and pled guilty to Mann Act, it's also the white slavery statute. I don't know what a first timer would ever get. By the way, if you weren't P. Diddy, you wouldn't be in federal court. They wouldn't charge him with any of this stuff. See, that's why people say, well, it's fixed because he's got money. No, because of the money, that's why they charged him. And we'll never know whom he pissed off. What were the factors behind this? Why did he incur the wrath of all these people? I have no idea. None. I have no idea. And we can play this game, but he never gave up anybody, never gave up Jay-Z or Fiddy or whoever the hell these people are. Nothing. Kept his mouth shut, did his time, so to speak, went from this lavish lifestyle to squatting over a stainless steel turlet, and everybody was going crazy. Look at him, he's having his big chicken for Thanksgiving or turkey. Oh, out there making fun, talking about oil and astroloop, and that video of Cassie. I kept saying, you keep showing that, you're going to habituate this. It doesn't. You don't understand. What does this have to do with racketeering? Nothing. She made $30 million. She sued the hotel, I believe, got 20 from him, Plus, they remain friends. Plus, she has texts where she says, I like these freak-offs. Plus, these people could have left. They could have called the police. They could have done anything. They didn't. But they want you to believe that somehow she was a victim of this. Now, the argument could be made that when you were involved in something as complicated as this, when you are involved in this grief bonding and all this other kind of bonding and victim bonding, you can come up with any name you want for this. Go ahead. And there may be something to that. Probably is. Some psychological connection that pulls people together, that where people by virtue... Remember that case? I forget what it was. These women who were kept hostage by this man. And sometimes the women didn't leave. They didn't escape. When you find yourself in a position of being held captive, kidnapped, mentally, actually, constructively, you'd be surprised what people do. They just give up. It's called learned helplessness. So I think there's something to be said for that. But there's no statute against that. That may be true in the real world, but there's no statute. By the same token, there are some women, I think, who should be acquitted of crimes because they fight back and kill their assailant. They kill the guy who's been driving them crazy. They've been killing the person who has been, what am I trying to say? Let's say a woman who's been beaten or abused, and there's a learned helplessness, abused wife syndrome. A lot of times there's no defense for that. Unless you claim insanity, and the woman says, I'm not insane, I killed my abuser. So that's not fair either. But because there's no defense, that's it. There should be, but there isn't. That's the way that works. There was no racketeering. And I said, human trafficking? You've got to be kidding. Force, fraud, or coercion? None of these people. They were lining up out the door to be a part of this. And I keep saying, if Diddy had filmed this, have everybody sign an NDA and say, I'm filming this. Diddy's, and I'm going to have this as an X-rated, and I'll get Kris Kardashian to promote the video like she did to when she pimped out her own daughter, but that's for another discussion. But in that particular case, it'd be a different, story. But it could have been legal because there is nothing against the law in having orgies. There is nothing against the law. Now, if somebody is drugging somebody, prove Diddy did it. Prove he did it. Not that during the course of the orgy, somebody was slipped GHB or roofies or Rohypnol or whatever it was. That's not enough. There were drugs everywhere. They're all doing drugs. Everybody's doing drugs. Many of the people who were there. So, are you going to say Diddy drugged them? Prove it. And since the beginning of time, whether you like it or not, there is something about this lifestyle, this world, that people don't understand. I mentioned this before. There are 3,000, as we speak, there are approximately 3,000 professional athletes in the United States. That's Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA. I'm not even talking about hockey. And what's interesting is that whenever they come to town, whenever they are in the position of coming to town, coming to a town, whenever they find themselves in some new, I guess you would call it some new, setting or whatever, they have people at hotels, and there are PR people who are working to produce women and groupies and the like to show up to service. I'm sorry to say this. Service people like the Diddys and others. And so this goes on all the time. And this goes on, unfortunately, whether people like this or not, I'm sorry to tell you, this goes on not only all the time, but it goes to show you that there's this, how do I say this? There's this this thing that people don't understand. Sometimes there are consensual forms of depraved behavior which we don't agree with. There are other times some people just didn't like him to the point where they couldn't see straight. He was reprehensible. I'm not saying it's racism, but when I told people, I said, there's no trafficking here. This is demeaning to the women and the young boys and the people who are actually trafficked through force, fraud, or coercion. Women who come here. I know one case, a woman came from some country, Indonesia, whatever. They have her passport grabbed. She's in labor trafficking. There are people who are not free to go, who are threatened, who are kept in subhuman squalor. Nobody even talks to them. There are people on the West Side Highway, these women walking around with like a papoose with little babies selling cut up fruit, and they're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. Nobody cares about them at all. We see it all the time, these young black kids who were selling candies on subways, and people who are forced, people who are part of cults. Remember the cult. We've forgotten about that. No, we forget. That's of no interest. But this, trafficking, racketeering, you're out of your mind. Who thought of this? And the jury saw right through it. This was overkill. It was overcharged. It was nothing. And the very fact that the defense never put on one witness is perfect. So anyway, I predict the judge is going to let him out, have some kind of, surrender your passport. You have no contact with anybody on the witness list. There's going to be an appeal, obviously, of this Mann Act violation, this white slavery statute. So he should be released on appeal, some adequate bond, and then watch him rekindle. This is the non-legal argument, but how he will change his image, because he beat the system. He's John Gotti. He got away with it. He's the Teflon pimp or rapper or whatever you want to call it. He did it. And everybody else is dead. Suge Knight and Biggie and Tupac and all. Well, Suge Knight's not dead, but he's in prison. Let me tell you something. This is, and in that world that you and I don't understand, he is as gangsta as you can get. He's the real McCoy. The federal government went at him and they couldn't get him. Do you know what that does in terms of street cred and music cred? Oh my God. Now what he does later on, I have no idea. How he handles this, I have no idea. Don't look for any kind of a genius move. But if he plays this smart and wisely, he can write his own ticket. This is a game changer. And he never gave up anybody, as far as we know. So he maintains his credibility among his people. Snitches get stitches and all that other kind of jazz. So, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty to racketeering, not guilty to sex trafficking, no force, fraud, or coercion, and guilty of, 2 counts of what? Mann Act violations. That is such chicken shit. Pardon my French. You've got to be kidding. So anyway, thank you for being a part of this. Stay tuned. Thank you for attending, for focusing on Lionel Legal. That's what we do. Your patronage means a lot to me. I appreciate your time and your efforts. And now, as we always say, a couple of things. Make sure you like this video, which is critical. Number 2, hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And number 3, subscribe. I've got some questions for you. Watch the questions and answer the questions. What do you think? I want to see your impact. Your observations are beautiful. So now you may comment as you see fit.